So how important is the candidates, I love this word, likability? John Neffinger makes a living coaching people on how to talk in front of groups. His clients are mostly business people, but he's also coached some Democratic candidates just to make everything square here. John, let me ask you about a couple things. First of all, let me go through some numbers we just got. These are what we call the internals on the Des Moines Register poll that just came out on Sunday that showed Hillary Clinton falling behind, or actually falling in this sort of even place statistically with Barack Obama.
Sure.
And, of course, Huckabee zooming ahead there. Let's take a look at a poll. This is on who's the most ego-driven of all the candidates on the Democratic side. And it shows Hillary up there with the most ego-driven. 52% say that Hillary's the most driven by ego. That doesn't sound like an attractive trait in a country that sort of still harbors the notion that we pick our presidents, they don't pick themselves.
Yeah, not particularly, Chris. What's going on here is when you see Hillary out on the campaign trail, you can tell that even though she's driven to want to succeed here, she's not necessarily having a great time doing it. In stark contrast, of course, to Bill, who loved nothing better than to shake hands all night. So if she's not driven by really enjoying the process, that leaves a question. What is it that she's doing this for? Now, of course, her supporters would say that's because she's on a mission. She really wants to help the country. She wants to make it a better place, etc. But for a lot of people, they suspect that this is a little bit of an ego trip for her, not too surprisingly.
Well, let's take a look at the likability question. Iowa, Obama is the most likable Democrat, way ahead of Clinton. How's that historically important? Look at these numbers here, 33, 26 down. Hillary's way down at 14. That's not a high number. That's 1 in 7 Democrats.
Not at all, and you're right to invoke history here, Chris. If you go back several elections, you see that the most likable candidate is usually the one who wins. In fact, you have to go back, I think, all the way to Dukakis versus Bush the First to find a hiccup there where the data doesn't line up. The reason
I think you got to go back to 72, actually, in McGovern and Nixon.
Could well be,
so,
right,
yeah.
to all the tumult of the 60s.
You got to go pretty far back. You make your point, though.
Yeah, well, and the reason, there's some very interesting research on this, but without delving too much into the numbers and the experiments, you can think about this way. Swing voters, who are usually going to decide the election one way or the other, by definition, they're not that committed to the policy perspective of either side. So the question is, what is it that they're using to determine who it is they want to be their next president? And for folks who aren't that into the policy, one of the things that they're choosing with the president is not just somebody to make policy, but also someone they're going to have to see on their TV, hear on their radio, talk to with their friends and their kids about for the next 4 years. So it's a real quality of life issue to them if they like the person or not. So likability is pretty important.
I agree. You have to turn the person on and watch it for 8 years.
Absolutely.
What about Hillary Clinton? You talked earlier to some people on our program, about producers, about the fact that you believe that Hillary's, the drubbing she's taken over the years on shows like Jay Leno or Letterman, over the years she's been the punchline of so many jokes.
That's right. I think more than anybody else on The Tonight Show might actually be accurate. And that tells you two things. One, in itself, it's not good for her, right? Because she's repeatedly being invoked as the butt of jokes. But the other issue here is, why is she such a good foil for joke writers? The answer is because her demeanor comes across as someone who doesn't take a joke very well, somebody who it's funny to make fun of. That's why earlier in the campaign, when they did the spoofs of The Sopranos, and when she had that YouTube video making fun of her singing the Pledge of Allegiance, or not being able to sing, whatever it was, the national anthem, all of that was very effective in beginning to warm up her image.
I made her more likable.
Yeah,
just on the other side, Rudy Giuliani's the most ego-driven Republican. Same deal with him. It seems like the New Yorkers are the most ego-driven, at least loosely defined New Yorkers. And then you have, and most popular, it looks like, and most likable, you got Romney and Huckabee, who happen to be leading in the polls out there. So that is certainly consistent with the results out there so far.
Absolutely, and that's no surprise. If you think about it, Romney has been paying a lot of money to make sure his smiling face is all over the state of Iowa for many, many months now. Huckabee, though, that's the big story in terms of likability here. Just these last couple of debates, he has been so warm and so personable and so engaging in a way that we're not used to seeing political candidates be. For the most part, they're talking about policy all the time. But this guy comes
John, even when I argue with the guy, I can't get to dislike him. He's very,
you still like him.
And he always comes off as very likable in this program.
You can't not like the guy. It's really something.
Anyway, he looks like Kevin Spacey, don't you think?
Yeah, he does. He might have to lose a little bit more weight before they really,
Well, please come back. I like these ineffables, these intangibles. Anyway, thank you very much, Don Neffinger.
We'll keep track of them.